Specifically, what would you tell voters about the FBI report that was released on Friday and the revelation that an aide actually destroyed several of your cell phones?
I would tell them that the FBI concluded there was no further action to be taken and that there was nothing inappropriate that in any way raised concerns for them.
It seems, though, that emails, servers, this all continues to linger and continues to be something that's in the front of voters' minds. Does that concern you?
Well, it concerns me because for political purposes, people are certainly working hard to keep it on the agenda. But I think the FBI investigation closed that door, and it's time for people to move on and actually compare the choices in this election. Look, I said that I take responsibility for that. I made a mistake. I've apologized. I'm not explaining it. I'm not in any way trying to excuse it. I'm just very relieved that the investigation is over and it's time to focus on what's going to matter in this election.
You have significantly outspent Donald Trump here in Florida, but the gap between the two of you is razor thin. Any reason for that?
Well, look, I've always said this was going to be a close election. That's the way elections are. And Florida, as you know, is sometimes among the very closest of our states. We've been working hard from the very beginning. We're going to keep working hard to register voters, to motivate people, to turn them out, to make sure that their votes are going to be counted in the election.
What are your plans for NASA and the space program?
I'm a huge supporter of NASA. When I was a young girl, wanted to be an astronaut. Now, I never could have been for many reasons, but at that time they weren't taking women, and I'm very pleased that in some years after that it was changed. So I have followed the space program. I think exploring space, having a manned mission eventually to Mars, making our presence known in the universe, learning about as much as we can about where we stand in this vast infinity is very important for the United States and, in fact, the world.
You mentioned today the Pulse shooting in Orlando. What would you tell the families of victims about what you would do to make sure that never happens again?
Well, I had the honor of meeting a number of the families of victims and the loved ones of victims, both in Orlando and at many of the stops that I've made here in Florida since. And I've been very clear, I'm going to be with them. I'm going to be with the survivors. I'm going to be with the victims. I'm going to be with the families. And we're going to do everything we can to protect Americans from terrorism and from any kind of mass murder, from gun violence that takes 33,000 lives a year. So I have laid out very specific plans that will keep us safe. And I am very impressed at the way Orlando has pulled together. The very generous decision by the hospital system not to charge a lot of these young people for the very serious injuries they had that had to be cared for. It just shows you what a great community Orlando is, and I want to be a good partner for them.
Orange County and Osceola County, Central Florida, has some of the highest uninsured rates in the entire state of Florida. What changes to Obamacare need to be made, or does the entire thing need to be basically rewritten and replaced?
Well, one of your problems in Florida is your governor refused to take Medicaid. One of the reasons Florida has such a high uninsurance rate is the same reason that Texas does, but that California and New York don't, because those Democratic governors saw a good deal and took it for the federal government, which means taxpayers in New York, taxpayers in California would have been supporting people to get on to Medicaid in Florida. And that would not have only been good for those people to be able to get health care, but it would have supported rural health clinics and hospitals. So first, I hope your governor or the leadership of your legislature changes their mind, because what's happening in Florida is a great tragedy. And then when it comes to the Affordable Care Act, we have to get the costs down. We have to get premium costs and co-pays and deductibles. We need more competition. I've laid out my ideas to do that, and I think, I'm going to be able to make a difference. So, people who are eligible for the Affordable Care Act get subsidized. And so we've got to make sure that they have access to insurance that they can afford.
Does it concern you that companies like Aetna are already pulling out?
Well, it raises questions. And part of the reason that I think they have given is that not enough people are actually in the system. People who get sick want to be in the system. But, of course, the way insurance works is everybody should be in the system so that those of us who are well at any certain time are, in effect, insuring others. And then when we're sick, the well are insuring us. That's the way insurance works. And unfortunately, when a big company pulls out because they're not, in their view, making enough money because more people aren't in the system, I think the proper response would be, let's work with states to get more people to sign up. Let's make sure that everybody who's eligible, particularly people who are now well, before they have that accident, before they have that diagnosis, are in the system. And that will bring costs down, and it will make it more profitable for private insurance to stay involved. But I'm going to also look for public options because I think there has to be choice for people. And I would like to see Medicare open for people to buy into it from 55 to 65 because, that's when most people begin to have some health challenges.
One of the things we've had in Central Florida is obviously an influx of people from Puerto Rico. What obligation does the federal government have to Puerto Rico and to ensuring that the fiscal solvency of that island is taken care of?
We have a great obligation, Chris. And many people in Florida know, Puerto Ricans are American citizens. They're not disenfranchised. And as American citizens, we do have an obligation. And I was pleased that the Congress and the President could come to an agreement about what to do to try to help to reverse the very dire financial situation that Puerto Rico is in without imposing additional pain on people, closing schools, closing hospitals. Many of the people coming to Florida are the professionals, doctors and nurses and business people who have left because they see no future there. Now, once they come to Florida, their full citizenship is recognized. They get to vote in our presidential election, for example. So I think we all have a big stake in trying to get Puerto Rico on a very solid financial footing going forward, and I will pay a lot of attention to doing that as president.
I think I got the high sign that we were done.